Welcome to Life Stories, where we share real-life experiences that inspire and empower. Today, we bring you a story of strength, betrayal, and resilience. This is the journey of a woman who faced the ultimate betrayal from the person she trusted most, her husband. But instead of crumbling, she fought back, protecting everything she had worked for, and ultimately emerged victorious. Join us as we dive into this powerful tale of love, loss, and the unbreakable strength we all have within us. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and let's begin today's story. My name is Emma, and for years, I had believed that my life with Michael was as perfect as could be. We had built a home together, shared countless memories, and believed we had a love that could weather any storm. But that illusion began to crumble one quiet night when I woke up alone in our bed. The sheets beside me were cold, a clear indication that Michael had been gone for a while. At first, I thought maybe he had gone to the bathroom or was simply grabbing a glass of water. But as I sat up, rubbing the sleep from my eyes, I heard it, a voice, his voice, low, hushed, almost cautious. The hallway light was off, but the soft sliver of moonlight streaming through the window cast shadows across the floor. I froze. I didn't want to believe it, but my heart started racing as I followed the sound of his voice. Who was he talking to? I stopped mid-step, my breath caught in my throat, straining to hear more. The words were muffled, but I could make out one phrase, clear as day. She doesn't suspect anything yet. I was paralyzed. The calm reassurance in his voice made my stomach twist with a sickening feeling. I had never heard him speak like that. Not about work, not about anything. Who was he hiding from me? My mind raced through all the possibilities. None of them good, none of them making sense. As I strained to hear more, I heard his footsteps approaching. Panic surged through me, and I darted back to the bedroom just in time. My pulse hammered in my ears as I slipped back under the covers, pretending to sleep. A moment later, I felt the bed dip as he climbed in next to me. His weight shifted beside me, but I kept my breathing steady, pretending to be asleep. Minutes passed, and then he exhaled slowly. Like everything was normal, I turned over, blinking up at him with a soft, groggy voice. "Where were you?" I asked, trying to sound as if I had just woken up. "Bathroom," he muttered, without hesitation. His lie was so smooth, so effortless, but something in me knew. "And the phone call?" I pressed, even though every ounce of my being screamed to let it go. "Just a client," he answered quickly. "Had to smooth out some details for a case." I studied him, my eyes locked on his face, trying to read him, to catch some glimmer of guilt or hesitation. But there was nothing. He met my gaze, his eyes unreadable, like always. Maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe it really was just a work call. But the whisper, the way he had said, "She doesn't suspect anything yet," kept echoing in my mind. And it didn't sit right. The next morning, I woke up before Michael. He was still fast asleep, his arm draped across the pillow where my head should have been. Quietly, I slipped out of bed, grabbed my phone, and padded barefoot to the kitchen. I had never been one to check the bank accounts. Michael had always handled most of the finances, and I never felt the need to dig into the details. But that morning, something felt off. I scrolled through the transactions, and my stomach tightened. Withdrawals, $500, $1.200, $750, $2. A dozen of them over the past 3 months. Small amounts, but frequent enough to raise a red flag. These weren't for bills, utilities, or investments. They were personal transactions, things we hadn't discussed. I took a shaky breath and locked my screen just as I heard footsteps behind me. Michael was standing in the doorway, rubbing his neck, looking groggy. "Morning," he mumbled, his voice thick with sleep. "What's for breakfast?" I set my phone down on the counter, trying to keep my cool. "I was about to ask you the same thing." He smirked, stepping forward to pour himself a cup of coffee. "Guess it's your turn then." I watched him carefully as he took a sip of his coffee. "I checked our bank account this morning," I said casually. Crossing my arms. Michael froze for just half a second. His grip tightened around the mug before he forced a chuckle. Just some small investments, he said, trying to brush it off. Business opportunities. Nothing to worry about. Short-term gains. His response was too smooth. Too rehearsed. I knew he was lying. I just didn't know why. The unease settled deep in my gut. And I knew something was terribly wrong. But I didn't know where to go from here. The rest of the day passed in a haze. Michael was glued to his phone, taking calls in the other room. His screen was always face down when he set it on the table. And whenever I looked at him, it felt like there was an invisible wall between us. Something I couldn't quite touch but could feel in the air. That night, as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind wouldn't quiet down. Michael had always been confident, smooth, the type of man who could talk his way out of anything. But after everything I had overheard, after everything I had seen, I could feel it. Something was off. My instincts screamed at me, warning me that there was more to the story. That Michael wasn't the man I had believed him to be. I turned to face him, watching his steady breathing as he lay asleep beside me. He looked calm, peaceful, like a man with nothing to hide. But I wasn't convinced. As my thoughts raced, I whispered to myself in the silence of the night, am I being paranoid, or is something really wrong? The next morning, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. I moved through my usual routine mechanically, going through the motions of making coffee and preparing breakfast. But my mind was elsewhere, piecing together the puzzle that had been unraveling all week. Michael was still asleep when I slipped out of bed, the weight of the situation pressing on my chest. My thoughts kept circling around one thing. I had to protect myself. And I had to act fast. That evening, as we sat down for dinner, Michael was unusually calm. He laughed at something on the TV, scrolled through his phone without a care in the world, and even suggested we order takeout. It was all too perfect, too rehearsed, and it made my skin crawl. He was playing the role of the doting husband. But I knew better. His behavior had changed, and I could feel it. There was a wall between us now, one that hadn't been there before. Then, it happened. Michael got up to take a shower, leaving his phone unattended on the coffee table. He never left his phone unattended. It was like his phone was an extension of his body. Always close, always guarded. I stared at the screen, heart pounding in my chest. The phone was face down, just like it had been for weeks. But as fate would have it, a notification lit up the screen. My pulse quickened, and I reached for the phone before I could stop myself. My hands were shaking as I tilted the screen just enough to read the message preview. Just make sure she stays in the dark. Almost there. My breath caught in my throat, and my chest tightened with panic. Who was Jake Mason, and what did he mean by, almost there? Was Michael planning to leave me? Was there someone else? The questions swirled in my mind as I scrambled to put the phone back exactly where it had been. I sat back down on the couch, gripping my knees to steady my trembling hands. A minute later, Michael strolled back into the room, towel drying his hair. He looked at me, completely oblivious to what I had just seen. He asked if I had decided on dinner, and I forced a smile, my stomach in knots. I hadn't decided on dinner. Not yet. That night, I lay in bed, my thoughts racing. I knew I had to act, but I didn't know how. I couldn't confront him just yet, not without proof. I needed more, so I did what I could. I started moving my assets. Slowly, carefully, without drawing attention. It wasn't just about the money, it was about protecting myself. I knew that if Michael was really planning to leave me, he would take everything, my savings, my assets, everything we had built together. The next morning, I decided to confront him. Michael had always been in charge of our finances, and I had never worried about it. But after what I had seen, I felt the need to take control. As we sat at the breakfast table, I casually asked, "Have you taken a look at our financials lately?" Michael looked at me, and for a split second, I saw a flicker of something in his eyes, nervousness. Maybe? Why? What's going on? I raised an eyebrow. Just curious. You've never been this interested in our personal finances before. He shrugged, trying to mask his unease. I thought it might be a good idea to get everything in order. You know, just in case of emergencies. I narrowed my eyes. It wasn't like Michael to bring up finances out of nowhere, especially with everything else going on. But I played along. What do you mean, in case of emergencies? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. You know, just making sure everything is in one place. Accounts, passwords, assets, just in case. I felt the cold knot in my stomach tighten. This wasn't normal. It was too calculated, too rehearsed. Michael had been preparing for something. And it wasn't just an emergency. It was something more, something deeper. I swallowed my unease and smiled, keeping my voice steady. I'll put something together, then. But as I watched him, I knew that I was no longer in control of the situation. Michael thought he could outsmart me. He thought I wouldn't see what was coming. But I had already moved first. Now, the game had changed. That night, as we lay in bed, the walls between us felt thicker than ever. I kept my thoughts to myself. But in my heart, I knew one thing for sure. I was going to fight for what was mine. I wasn't going to let Michael destroy me without a fight. And whatever was coming next, I would be ready. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of quiet determination. I had moved my assets, gathered what I needed, and started preparing for the confrontation I knew was coming. Michael could no longer fool me. And the time had come to show him that I wasn't the woman he thought he could manipulate. It wasn't just about protecting my finances anymore. It was about protecting myself, my dignity, and my future. The day unfolded like any other. But the tension between us was palpable. Michael went through the motions, pretending everything was fine, but I could feel the distance between us growing. He was too calm, too composed, and I knew it was only a matter of time before he made his move. When he walked into the kitchen that morning, his usual smile didn't reach his eyes. Hey, babe, can you sign something for me? He asked casually, as if nothing had changed. I turned to him, my heart beating a little faster. What is it? Just some financial updates for tax purposes, he said, sliding a document across the table. His tone was light, but I noticed the nervous tapping of his fingers on the counter. It was a small thing, but it told me everything I needed to know. Michael was trying to distract me, to get me to sign something that I hadn't even read. I picked up the document and skimmed through the legal jargon, but my eyes froze when I reached the last page. Property transfer agreement. It was a simple document, but its implications were clear. He wanted me to sign over everything, my assets, my savings, even the condo we had bought together. He wanted it all. I placed the paper down slowly, my fingers curling around the edge of the table. Michael, what is this? I asked, my voice controlled, though my anger was rising with each passing second. His smile faltered, but only for a moment. It's just a precaution, babe, he said smoothly. Nothing changes between us, just consolidating things for protection. You know, in case something happens. I stared at him, trying to hold back the fury that was building inside me. You want me to sign over everything? That's not a precaution, Michael, that's a plan. He shifted uncomfortably in his chair. It's just paperwork. Emma, don't make a big deal out of this. I leaned forward, my gaze fixed on him. If it's just paperwork, why are you so eager for me to sign it without reading it? For the first time, I saw something flicker in his eyes, anxiety. Maybe? But he quickly masked it with a chuckle. You're being dramatic, Emma. It's just a formality. I wasn't buying it. I'm not signing this, I said firmly. Not now, not ever. His expression hardened. You really don't want to do this, Emma? I met his gaze, unflinching. Is that a threat? He didn't answer right away, but his silence spoke volumes. He leaned back in his chair, his jaw clenched tightly. He was trying to maintain control, but I wasn't going to let him. I smiled, slowly, deliberately. You know what, Michael? You're right. I do need to think about this. I stood up, gathering the papers, and walked to the kitchen counter, placing them neatly down. Michael watched me. His eyes narrowed. He didn't know what to make of my calm. For the first time, the tables had turned. The power was in my hands now. That night, as we lay in bed, he tried to act like nothing had happened. He rolled over to me, his usual charm in full force. But I saw through it. Michael wasn't the man I had married anymore. He was someone desperate, someone who thought he could control everything. But I had learned the truth. His plan was falling apart. And he didn't know it yet. The next morning, everything shifted again. Michael tried to take charge, suggesting that we separate. His words were measured, rehearsed. But there was something in the way he spoke that made my blood run cold. "I think we should separate," he said, looking at me like I was supposed to agree with him. I didn't flinch. "You've been planning this, haven't you?" I asked, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. He hesitated, and for a split second, I saw it, the flicker of guilt, of something darker. But he quickly recovered, falling back into his rehearsed lines. "It's for the best, Emma. We've grown apart." I leaned forward, resting my arms on the table. "You mean you want out? But you want to make sure you don't leave empty-handed." His lips pressed into a thin line. But he didn't deny it. And that was all I needed to know. "I already moved my assets," I said, my voice calm. But the words cut through the tension like a knife. Michael froze. His entire body stiffened. And for the first time, I saw the fear in his eyes. He had underestimated me. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice sharp, too controlled. I smiled, slow and deliberate, exactly what it sounds like. The silence between us stretched long, thick with the weight of his realization. He had lost. That moment felt like everything. Michael had spent months plotting, manipulating, controlling. He had tried to make me feel small, to make me believe I was powerless. But now, he was the one who was powerless. And as I sat there, watching him process his defeat, I felt something inside me shift. For the first time in months, I felt free. As the days passed, everything began to settle. Michael may have thought he could break me, manipulate me, and take everything I had worked so hard for. But I had proven him wrong. The legal battles, the emotional turmoil, the endless nights of uncertainty, it all led to this moment. The victory wasn't just about the assets, the money, or even the court battles. It was about reclaiming my strength, my dignity, and my freedom. For the first time in a long while, I could breathe easy. I had walked through the storm, emerged bruised but unbroken, and now I stood tall, knowing that no one could ever take away my power again. I learned a valuable lesson in all of this. Life will test you in ways you never expect. The people you trust most can sometimes betray you in the most painful ways. But it's how you rise from that betrayal that truly defines you. It's about finding the courage to fight when everything feels like it's falling apart. If you've ever faced a situation where you had to stand up for yourself, even when the odds were against you, know that you're not alone. You are stronger than you think. And you have the power to overcome anything. If this story resonated with you, please share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more life stories, lessons, and inspiration. There's much more to come. Until next time, stay strong, stay smart, and never let anyone take away your power.